of the actual spacesuits worn by NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley during the Demo 2 test flight last year. That's a view from the pre-launch news conference Tuesday morning. You can see the briefers, and on either side of them in the background, that is Bob Behnken's spacesuit on the left and Doug Hurley's on the right. And so they are here in Florida, especially for this mission to pay homage to all of the accomplishments that the NASA and SpaceX teams have done together in the last 10 years of the Commercial Crew program. And so we are super excited to see the next crew of 4 suit up in their own custom-made suits momentarily.
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting live views inside the ONC suit-up room momentarily. But while we have a great shot of the rocket out at Pad 39A, something I want to point out, as I mentioned earlier, this is the first time that we are reusing a booster for a crewed flight. And it's also the first time that we are reusing a Dragon capsule. But you can actually see the soot from the previous mission, which was the Crew-1 mission, that this booster was utilized for. So if you're wondering why this particular rocket is not quite as white and shiny as other ones you may have seen, that's because this one is flight proven. It's already been to space and back.
And you can't probably see it from this view, but the crew for this mission actually signed their initials in the soot of that first stage booster. They had a chance to do that after they arrived here at Kennedy last Friday, so that was pretty cool to see. And Thomas was saying that they think they started a new tradition for these reused boosters for Crew. And that is an up-close look at the Crew Dragon capsule and the Crew access arm extended out to the right. That is the hallway that the astronauts will walk down once they make their way to the pad a little bit later this morning. Again, we are just standing by to get our first live look inside the suit-up room, inside the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center at T-minus 4 hours, 2 minutes, 20 seconds, and counting until liftoff. And a note about the weather, it is a really calm, peaceful, quiet morning here on Florida Space Coast. Yesterday morning was much the same way for us here on the ground, and a lot of people were wondering, why did they wave off the launch on such a beautiful Florida morning? And it wasn't the conditions at the launch site, it was the conditions along the ascent corridor, because if the crew has to abort at any point along that flight path, the conditions have to be safe or low risk enough for a rescue operation to take place in the Atlantic. And so conditions in the Atlantic were just too risky, so the teams made the right call. If they had attempted yesterday, everyone agreed that they would have had to scrub. And the conditions look much better today. The last I heard that there was only a 5% probability of violation, which means we're 95% go for launch today. So we're very excited about that weather news.
That's pretty good for Florida standards, 95% favorability. That's
yes.
Pretty great.
Yeah, and it's much better odds than the first time Endeavour liftoff in May of last year with Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley.
I believe for Crew-1 we were about 80% favorable for that launch as well. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We did have to scrub for that, basically the downstream weather, but unfortunately, that's, while and there we have our first look inside the suit-up room at the Neil Armstrong ONC building. We can see the astronauts have gotten into their suits and are now working with SpaceX suit technicians and the closeout team, SpaceX suit closeouts for doing checks on the umbilicals for, looks like they're getting ready to get into their chairs. Tracy, looking at this room, I'm sure it brings back memories.
It does. It brings back too many. I don't have enough time to talk about it all. But yeah, this is such a historic room that anyone who walks in it, whether you're an astronaut or not, you just feel like you're catapulted in time to a period where this all began.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a view of Megan MacArthur being helped by the suit technicians. She happens to be the wife of Bob Behnken, and she's going to be flying in the same spacecraft in the same suit, not the same suit, excuse me, the same seat as her husband in the pilot seat. But of course, she's got her own custom-made suit on.
Yep, all of these suits were designed in-house at SpaceX. We took safety, comfort, and style all into account. I absolutely love the way that these turned out. And we have heard from crew members that they are really comfortable. So what we see going on here with earlier Megan, they were basically just making sure that everything was comfortable and everything was zipped up. And what we see, I can't quite tell who's in that chair there, but they're basically sitting in a mock-up of the Crew Dragon capsule. And that looked, yeah, that's our commander, Shane Kimbrough. And he's basically sitting in a mock-up of the chair that he will be seated in inside Crew Dragon. So while they're seated inside Crew Dragon, they actually have an umbilical plugged into their suit that flows cool air through the suit to keep them cool and comfy, as well as communications umbilicals and power. So it's really important to make sure that we do these fit-ups here so that there really aren't any surprises once we get into Dragon capsule out on the pad.
And the helmets that they're wearing are also custom printed using 3D printing technology. So that's a really exciting technological advancement since the shuttle days. In the room shot we saw just a minute ago, and there's Megan MacArthur getting helped into her gloves in her spacesuit. But we saw, if we could take the wide shot of that room, we saw another astronaut. There it was in the foreground, number 38. That's Jessica Meir. She is a member of the pad closeout team. So we'll see her here in the suit up room, and she'll also be headed to the white room a little later to provide crew support.
Yeah, that role for the astronaut is also pretty historic. We've had a group of astronauts in the shuttle days come down and support shuttle crews, basically pre-flight the orbiter and get it ready to go. Before that, in the Apollo days, that's where it all started with our astronaut support personnel, and it's nice to see that tradition continue, having an astronaut there to help support.
We can also see the red recliners from the shuttle days kind of in the top right corner off in the background. So they did keep those chairs around, but it's really nice for the crew to have actual mock-ups of the seats that they're going to be inside the spacecraft, so they can do all that kind of fine-tuning in the room before they go get into the actual seats inside the spacecraft.
Yeah, I always like to say we kept the history, we just relocated it. Like I said, yeah, this is an integral part of launch day is doing these initial suit checkouts in the mock-up Dragon seats, but yeah, you can even see the corner of one of those maroon chairs in the upper right-hand corner there. So yeah, those are the same recliners that the astronauts used during the shuttle days to do basically the same process that's going on now.
And there's a close-up, we just lost view of him, but that's Aki Hoshide having a laugh with some of the suit technicians. This
is
crew
the LD on countdown 1 with a T-minus 4-hour situational awareness briefing. We are currently counting down to a T0 of 9:49:02 UTC, 5:49:02 local, with an instantaneous window. The crew has started suit donning and leak checks in preparation to begin ingress activities. The advanced team is currently on the way to the pad to open the side hatch and prepare for crew arrival. Vehicle gases are at MEOP, FTS checkouts are complete, and Dragon prop tanks are pressed. F9 is not working any issues at this time. The team is tracking ascent winds and pad winds for this morning's launch, but are currently go for those conditions. Expecting a final update on ascent winds at approximately T-minus 3 hours and pad escape winds at T-minus 1 hour. Falcon 9 launch and recovery weather is not tracking any constraints at this time. In the event of a scrub, the next available launch attempt will be Monday, April 26th. Procedure 52.911 is open in the event of any crew contingency from crew ingress through launch. As a reminder, the launch escape system will be armed prior to propellant load today. Fire Room 4 will go into lockdown at T-minus 45 minutes and last until after spacecraft separation, where the launch escape system is disarmed. All personnel are requested to stay in their locations until lockdown is complete. CE, do you have a report on F9 health?
F9 is healthy, and we are not tracking any vehicle issues at this time. COPVs are at full pressure, and we are looking good for today's op.
Copy all. MD, report on Dragon health.
Good evening, LD. I can report the same. Dragon is healthy and looking forward to proceeding with count.
All right, great news. This will conclude the T-minus 4-hour situational brief unless there are any further questions.
All right, all good news there from SpaceX Launch Director Frank Messina and SpaceX Chief Engineer Emma France. Everything sounds like we are on track and looking really good for our on-time liftoff today for this Crew-2 mission.
And just a quick note about those call-outs. Sometimes they may happen a little bit ahead of schedule from what we have on paper. And so we might be in mid-sentence, and we'll do our best to just stop talking so that you don't miss that traffic on the nets. But moving right along, this is the second rotational crew to fly on a commercial spacecraft, and they bring a diverse set of experiences to today's flight. Crew Dragon Commander Shane Kimbrough, sitting there, will be making his third trip to space. He was born in Killeen, Texas, and raised in Atlanta. He was selected as an astronaut in 2004. Kimbrough is a retired U.S. Army colonel and holds degrees in aerospace engineering and operations research. He first launched aboard the Space Shuttle Endeavour on STS-126, then aboard a Russian Soyuz spacecraft for expeditions 4950. Kimbrough has spent a total of 189 days in space and performed 6 spacewalks.
Pilot Megan MacArthur will be making her second trip to space, but her first one to the space station. She was born in Honolulu, but considers California her home state. NASA selected MacArthur as an astronaut in 2000. She holds degrees in aerospace engineering and oceanography. MacArthur served as mission specialist aboard Space Shuttle Atlantis on STS-125, the final servicing mission of the Hubble Space Telescope in 2009. She operated the shuttle's robotic arm over the course of 12 days and 21 hours, capturing the telescope and maneuvering crew members throughout the 5 spacewalks to upgrade Hubble's science instruments, along with removal and replacement of other components to lengthen the telescope's life. Hubble continues to operate to this day, providing scientists the opportunity to make more and more deep space discoveries.
Mission Specialist Aki Hoshide is suiting up for his third space flight today. Born in Tokyo, Hoshide was selected as an astronaut in 1999 by the National Space Development Agency of Japan, known today as JAXA. Hoshide earned degrees in aerospace engineering and mechanical engineering. He flew on STS-124 aboard the Space Shuttle Discovery to deliver and install Japan's science laboratory Kibo. He also flew aboard the Russian Soyuz on Expedition 32 and 33 for a 124-day visit to the space station. In 2014, he also served as commander of the 18th NASA Extreme Environment Mission Operation, an underwater expedition at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Aquarius habitat off Florida Keys' Largo Coast.
And mission specialist Thomas Pesquet will be making his second trip to space. Born in Rouen, France, Pesquet was selected by ESA as an astronaut in 2009. He has a degree in spacecraft design and control and more than 2,300 hours as a commercial airline pilot. Pesquet first flew to space on the Russian Soyuz as a flight engineer for expeditions 50 and 51. In that time, he worked on more than 50 different experiments and performed 2 spacewalks to maintain the space station with Kimbrough. He has logged 197 days in space. Pesquet will be the first European astronaut to fly in Crew Dragon, and it will be the first time a European has launched from American soil in more than a decade.
Each of these 4 crew members will join Expedition 65 once they arrive at the International Space Station, with Aki Hoshide taking over as commander of the station right before Crew 1 departs. And of course, we will be sure to give you a closer look at each of these astronauts as we approach launch time. So we can see right now, pilot Megan MacArthur is now going through the leak check portion of suit up. Aki looks very comfortable.
The advanced team is in the white room on schedule.
All right, the call that we heard there indicates the advanced team, which is basically the SpaceX team that just arrived out at Pad 39A to start preparing Dragon capsule for the arrival of the crew and the remainder of the closeout team. once again, Aki having some more laughs with our suit technicians there in the suit-up room.
You know, the suit-up room is kind of where the on happens. You know, for the crew, this is it. There's no going back to your room to get something. There's no break from this point. It's the moment that you're on. So it's kind of nice to see a little levity break out and put everybody at ease that they're still with everybody in the room.
And these four will have about a 4-day handover period with the astronauts from Crew-1, who of course have been living and working on the space station since their launch from here in Florida this past November. NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, Shannon Walker, and JAXA astronaut Soichi Noguchi were the last astronauts to sit in this room and suit up, and they are set to return home to Earth on April 28th after the longest human spaceflight ever launched from the United States. We'll dive a little deeper into the work they've been doing later on before launch, but right now they are preparing to welcome this crew aboard station.
The Crew-2 astronauts will also be arriving at the space station in the exact same capsule that first flew NASA astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley back in May of 2020. After that mission splashed down last summer, SpaceX refurbished the Crew Dragon Endeavour specifically for today's flight. The Falcon 9 launching today is also using a flight-proven hardware. It is the same booster flown on Crew-1. So this crew is about to fly on both a flight-proven spacecraft and rocket, which I personally think is pretty cool.
That is really cool. Reuse not only drives down the cost of space exploration, but yesterday Colonel Bob Cabana made a great point, I thought, and that was that when we refurbish these vehicles, we are able to inspect them and notice if there's any issues with them that we can then later fix or design differently that we would otherwise not know if we disposed of it on the way home. So I think it's great.
Always more to learn with spaceflight. This crew has been training together since their assignment for this mission was announced this past July, and each has their own unique connection to the mission. Kimbrough had already been familiar with Crew Dragon and how the astronauts interact with the spacecraft. Before this assignment, he was chief of NASA's Vehicle Integration and Test Office, and in that role he spent a great deal of time helping Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken prepare for the Demo 2 test flight last year. As we mentioned, Kimbrough flew on the Space Shuttle Endeavour. There he is, a photo from him on board the Space Shuttle Endeavour during STS-126. That was back in 2008. So this mission has a special meaning for him because of his connection to just the Endeavour name. He's thrilled about flying on the Crew Dragon Endeavour this time.
And MacArthur also came into her role with a unique perspective. As we mentioned earlier, Bob Behnken is her husband, so she's getting ready to make the same journey he did nearly 1 year ago in the same seat and role of pilot aboard Crew Dragon Endeavour. And of course, he will be the one seeing her off today.
As for Pesquet and Hoshide, during their previous trips to the International Space Station, they both saw Cargo Dragon up close and personal. They had the opportunity to capture the vehicle with the station's robotic Canadarm during the Dragon's birthing process. As a point of distinction, Crew Dragon will dock autonomously with the space station and will not need the help of the arm. During that experience, Pesquet was truly amazed by the spacecraft's guidance and navigation, and how precise it was while traveling at more than 17,500 miles per hour above the Earth. Now he will ride aboard Crew Dragon and is looking forward to experiencing that same sort of performance firsthand.
And for Hoshide, he was astonished by the gorgeous design of the Dragon spacecraft, and he had a lot of fun transferring cargo in and out of the vehicle. At the time, he never thought he'd have the opportunity to ride on Dragon, and so he's looking forward to it being a fascinating ride. And there he is giving a wave inside the suit-up room.
During one of their many trips to train at SpaceX facilities in Hawthorne, our team had the opportunity to chat with the crew. One thing that's for certain about these four astronauts, they all really enjoy each other's company and always have a good time with each other.
My fellow astronauts on this crew were incredible. And all three of these folks are incredibly brilliant, incredibly competent, so it really makes it easy for me, being the commander of the Dragon, to have these folks on board and for us to be successful.
Aki's very resourceful, always in a good mood, which is hugely important for a long-term mission. Megan, she's super smart. She knows NASA inside out. And for Shane, I think what I appreciate the most is his leadership. He's got a great leadership that the man makes you want to follow him into battle just by setting a great example. So I'm looking forward to spending time with those three on the space station.
Thomas, who I'm flying together with this time. He's very talented, he's a good guy, but most of all, I love his dancing. He's a great dancer. You can ask him, hey, Aki said you're a good dancer, can you dance for us?
So my crewmates are so much fun. The sense of humor that we all share, you know, the banter that goes around the group is really, really fun. And you might think, you know, interacting with some of them individually that they're kind of quiet, but they're all individually very funny and very fun to be around.
It's like a family now. You know, we joke around a lot, we have fun together, and when we need to be serious, we do get serious. I like this teamwork, but most of all, I like the relationship with each other.
To be able to laugh about things and your mistakes and the things that you do well, and just enjoy each other. So we have a very compatible crew. I'm very blessed to be on a crew like this with Thomas, Aki, and Megan.
And we're looking at the crew again live in the suit-up room. They had a little bit of downtime yesterday with the wave off because of the weather. I think we have a photo that Thomas posted recently. There they are, sitting on the beach.
Oh, what a fantastic moment of levity for those guys. You know, I've said it before, these are some of the best personalities in our Corps today, and it's fun to watch them launch. It's also fun to watch them relax just before their big mission.
Yes, and now it's all business.
Suit donning and checkouts complete on schedule.
So we just heard the call that suit donning and checkouts are complete at T-minus 3 hours and 42 minutes. Let's go over to John Innsbrucker in Hawthorne for an update. John?
Thanks, Marie. We're just inside, as she said, 3 hours, 43 minutes. All continues to go well for this morning's launch as we watch suit up finishing. We just heard the call out, side hatches open. The advanced team is waiting for the astronauts up in pad 39A. Now to get to this point, we began clearing the launch pad of people at T-minus 8 hours. The team began clearing the hazard area around pad 39A at T-minus 5 hours. The only folks remaining on the pad right now are the ones who are needed for ingress of the astronauts. As I mentioned, they have entered the pad and they are waiting for the crew. And we'll be covering crew arrival at the pad and entry into the spacecraft. At the launch pad, Falcon 9 is powered on. Engine and stage checkouts were performed several hours ago. We're currently monitoring telemetry. We're pressurizing gas storage vessels on the first and second stages. A little while ago, we heard the T-minus 4 hour briefing by the SpaceX launch director. The good news is there's nothing significant to report on the rocket. Now, on top of the Falcon 9, Dragon spacecraft is ready for the crew. Functional checkouts were performed in preparation for the crew's upcoming arrival. Most recently, a little under an hour ago, the Dragon propellant system was pressurized to final flight pressure. And currently, all spacecraft systems are go. The launch range is ready to support. They're working no issues at this time. The weather continues to be go for launch, and as we heard in the countdown brief, we'll be listening for pad winds at the T-minus 3 hour, T-minus 1 hour marks. But right now, we're anticipating acceptable weather for launch. So things are looking good with both Falcon and Dragon. The weather's cooperating as we count down to liftoff. As we get ready for the crew to walk out, let's go back to our team at Kennedy Space Center.
All right, thanks, John. It's now T-minus 3 hours, 40 minutes here at Kennedy Space Center in Florida. The crew woke up right after about 11:05. I guess it was last night now because it's now Friday morning. And they listened to a weather brief, which we've heard the weather is looking great. They had breakfast, and we have been watching the suit techs from SpaceX fit each crew member into their own custom-made spacesuit inside the astronaut crew quarters. And in a few minutes at T-minus 3 hours, hours and 25 minutes. The crew will be making their way out of this famed suit-up room, down the hall, into an elevator, down to the first floor, and then finally outside to be greeted by their families and a small group of well-wishers before they head out to the pad.
There are 3 Teslas waiting to drive the crew out to Launch Complex 39A. Riding in the first car, we'll have the spacecraft closeout lead and a couple of suit techs. In the second Tesla, we will have Shane and Megan, and they'll be sharing a ride with our flight surgeon. And in the third vehicle will be Aki and Thomas and another closeout lead. Of course, we're going to try and follow the convoy live every step of the way. It is the middle of the night / morning, so there we could see the Teslas awaiting the crew to take them to the pad. But we will try to bring you as close as possible to the crew without actually being inside the car with them.
Tracy, what's it like for you seeing the crew here in these moments before they walk out and remembering what your experience was like?
Like I said, this is the moment where the on gets turned on, and you're looking at your crewmates, and you know you're going to be doing something pretty exciting here. But there's it seems like a long way to go before liftoff because there's a lot of milestones to meet, and a lot